We have seen people who were deprived from contesting the elections. We have also seen people who are disenfranchised from voting on election day. We have even seen the government inaugurating people who didn't win elections with evidence to prove against the Electoral Act of Nigeria and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. My fellow distinguished gentlemen of the press, honestly, we are bittered about the style of the democracy of Africa. And we are very, very angry because Nigeria stands a chance to continue to be the lead for the future of Africa. If Nigeria is given the opportunity to succeed, definitely it's a new channel for African success. Africa cannot find its place in the Committee of Nations until Nigeria is politically stabilized. The stabilization of the Nigerian politics must have everything to do with credibility in our elections. It must have everything to do with the integrity of individuals who contest elections. And until the Nigerian people stand up to protect that interest.
Secondly, the citizens must take ownership of the democracy. What we are having today is government of some people, by some people, against the generality of the people. That is what we are seeing today, and we can't afford to continue like this. We must have a true democracy. And a true democracy does not end with the electoral process. And that is the third thing that the citizens must take ownership of: good governance. We must ask for good governance by determining how our budget is spent. We can't allow some people to sit down in the National Assembly and start buying cars for themselves and forgetting the masses. We can't allow this country to continue by destroying our economy. Ask anybody who don't want us to say no to what is happening, or who is claiming that we have the best democracy in Africa or in the world. Ask him, what is the essence of democracy? Is it to have some part of the country in hands of bandits? Is it to have a naira that cannot stand for the use of the country? There must be justice in having a democracy, a true democracy. I want to believe that, yes, campaign period is over, but we are in another stage, that is to criticize bad policies and demand for justice for Nigerians. If we don't exercise this right of voicing out against injustice, of voicing out against inequity, of voicing out against bad governance, then we don't have democracy. Don't call it democracy.
Are the solutions to ensure that we have a stable democracy in Nigeria and in Africa? Number one, this untimely encroachment by the executive and the legislature into the courts should be avoided. We've seen the bureaucratization of the Nigerian courts, and we've also seen the statements of Justice Musa Datijo as it relates to the courts in Nigeria and the problems, even from the top hierarchy of the Supreme Court in Nigeria. So, as much as possible, this should be avoided. Another thing is INEC. INEC needs to be unbundled. The whole idea of leaving INEC to the duty of procuring, printing materials, ballot boxes, and all of that is not their duty. And that is why they do not have enough time to focus on properly giving us a free, fair, and credible elections. We have several departments of procurement or ministries of procurement in Nigeria. Allow them handle that duty and allow INEC do the major work, so that, because making a choice, when you look at section 1, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution, it provides that nobody will take over governmental powers except as provided in the Constitution. So it means that the only way that has been provided in the Constitution is by elections. So if there is no election or credible elections, it means that our democracy is defeated. So it becomes necessary. You look at Part 7 of the Electoral Act, which provides for the punishment for electoral violations and electoral offenses. How many people have been punished for intimidation, for abuse, for the death? We saw the death of a Labour Party candidate in Enugu State, Mr. Chukwu, may he so rest in peace, and several others who either lost their lives or lost means of livelihood. It is unfortunate, and we must avoid this political intimidation. You see, I think it was section 39 or so of the Electoral Act that provides that undue influence or special preferences should not be given to particular political parties. Because the APC is leading today, they should not take over the media space, other parties, and that is why we should have a multi-party system in our society. Because of want of time, I'll bring my speech here to an end. But I must say and reiterate the statements of Justice Musa Datijo, which is said about a particular quote. I hope that we do not get to a point where we begin to allow evil percolate our system, where we allow forgery and other criminal vices percolate our system. And then from there we begin to celebrate these evils. We begin to legalize these evils. And we have seen our courts legalize in times past. I hope that we don't even get to the point where we begin to persecute those who speak against evil. Democracy is a necessity in today's world, in today's 21st century, and I do hope that you can support me and support every like-minded person who is ready to entrench a stable democracy in Nigeria and in Africa.
Talking about democratic processes, they're talking about all sorts of things. The real problem facing Nigeria is the fact we have divided ourselves along religion and ethnic line. What affects the person in the north does not affect the person in the south. The person in the south, if they are crying, they say, leave them, not their problem. If the north is crying, say, leave them, that's how they behave. Allow them to solve their problem themselves. We have lost empathy for ourselves. We no longer feel each other's pain. We have separated ourselves into small cocoons that we are not thinking that an Igala man should just survive, and the Biron man should survive, and the John man should survive, and let the Hausa and the Fulani man also survive. It has become a danger to how we will grow. We have separate youth agitating for separate things. They say NSAS. Oh, NSAS wanted to remove Buhari from government because Buhari is from the north. So the north didn't participate. That's the truth. We can sit here and pretend as much as we want. We can sit here and talk to ourselves as brothers. And we can sit here and speak the truth so that future generations that are born will know what unity of purpose can do to the survival of the country. Let me tell you, in 2015, my brother said election in 2015 was free and fair. I didn't believe that. I was an active participant. I was secretary of Interparty Advisory Council of Nigeria. 2015, vote came from Kano. 2 million votes came from Kano. There was no void vote. There was no council vote. There was no vote there was nobody that made mistake. The 2 million vote counted. We have not had any democracy that is truly transparent. We only expect a transparent process in this current 2023, and we also failed by the commission that has been, emasculated by the executive. Let's save our country. And if we must save our country, let me try to tell you there are fundamental things that are wrong with Nigeria. From our judiciary, you heard what Datijo Mohammed Musa said, the retiring Chief Justice of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He said a very clear statement, without any ambiguity, that even the CTN is not democratic in its administration of justice in Nigeria. That it makes appointments without consultation with other members of the Supreme Court. That it appropriate and pay expenses without even sitting down with colleagues. That is not democracy, even within the judicial arm of government. That you have more members. I think the law should be reviewed up to a point that if you have fully constituted 21 members of the Supreme Court panel, they must always sit, look at their budget, have minutes of meeting, approve what will be approved, and make payments according to the majority rule of their sittings. Because if we leave any system that is left unchecked, it will hamper the administration of democratic practice in any country. We, as a people, whenever part of the constitution we practice today, the constitution is so defective and does not represent and protect the generality of our interests because of the way it has been structured. We have had plenty books and it's been kept on the shelf. We have Justice Lemu election-related violence, committee about how elections were manipulated to a point that violence erupted and people died in northern Nigeria. So in my own view, I think we should go back to Justice Way panel report and follow certain recommendations like unbundling of the Independent Electoral Commission as follows. The electoral management body should be solely responsible for the conduct of election as it was written in the constitution that they shall organize, undertake, and conduct elections. Simple and period. And then we should take away Election Affairs Commission from the INEC so that they will have a body, just like EFCC, that will be responsible for the conduct, for the prosecution of electoral offenders. Because if you look at why people who have committed offenses against our electoral processes are not tried, it's because even at the state, the Attorney General of the state has what they call only prosecute. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know better. That the fact that at the end of the day, if you arrest them, the Attorney General can seize that case and withdraw it from court, and the person goes. So we need to have an electoral offenses commission, and we need to have political party registration and management commission. It's only in Nigeria, even South Africa. Electoral commission only conduct election. Even in Sierra Leone. We need to also have election dispute constitutional complaints commission and create a constitutional commission that will be responsible for hearing litigations that arises from election and leave our normal our court from meddling into electoral matters that has now become like a making pot for them to survive.
Brothers and sisters, you can't stop poaches in Africa if you do not stop greedy leaders. You can't stop poaches in Africa, you can't stop coups in Africa if you do not compel leaders in Africa to be responsible and responsive to the people. We're not making any defenses for military coups. We're stating the obvious. Like I said to you, truth is that pristine truth in brotherhood. If we must be truthful to ourselves, anybody who says to you that the worst civilian government is better than the best military rule is a great liar, because the Asian tigers came out of military rule. Is a great liar because Cuba, Singapore, and several other countries came off military rule. What is important for us as we talk today is that leaders must be responsible and responsive to the people.